Greetings, book lovers everywhere, and welcome to E-Train Talks. I'm your host, E-Train. I'm a 13-year-old literacy advocate, podcast host, and booktuber, and I am so excited for this interview because it's a super special one. I get to spotlight amazing storytellers, but today is in fact an even more incredible day than usual. I get the honor of shining a big, bright spotlight on the 2024 Sydney Taylor Honoree for middle grade, the writer of one of my favorite middle grade Jewish themed stories, author Joshua S. Levy. It's such a privilege to welcome you onto my show. I'm so grateful that you took time out of your day to join me.
Thank you so much. I'm really delighted to be here.
And we're all so delighted that you're here as well. We're so thrilled because, like I mentioned earlier, your award-winning, you can say that now, your award-winning book, The Jake Show, is one of my newest favorite middle grade books. It features important, relevant, and entertaining Jewish and middle school themes. And I'm so thrilled, so happy for you and for Jake and all your characters that it's being honored, and that I get to share your story on the Sydney Taylor Book Award book blog. So welcome everybody, and let's get this book party started. So one of the very exciting things about being involved in the Sydney Taylor book tour is that I heard the news a couple days before that your amazing book, The Jake Show, was receiving the Sydney Taylor honor. It's not easy trying to keep such great news a secret, and I can only imagine how you must have felt. So what was your reaction when you first heard the good news?
Yeah, it was really fun, really exciting. I think I got a call in the afternoon or evening the week before. And honestly, I was genuinely so surprised and caught off guard by it, that I 100% nervously stumbled my way through the whole conversation. But it felt absolutely great. It felt great between then and the announcement. It was, really a dream, to get that recognition from the committee. I'm so honored to be among the group of books and authors that were recognized, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, and when I heard the news, I was just so excited. I jumped out of my seat when I heard because I absolutely love the Jake Show, and so many people who are listening love it as well. Let's dive into the Jake Show for those who haven't yet read it. So, I totally agree with Jewish Library Association. So, I read the Jake Show and I totally agree with the decision to honor your book. It's a perfect middle grade story with just the right amount of fun and meaning. And of course, I love it even more because interwoven into the story are Jewish themes and lots of middle grade ups and downs, and even a few surprising twists. But since some of our listeners may not have had the chance to read The Jake Show yet, will you please take a moment and without giving away any spoilers, can you share a bit about The Jake Show?
Absolutely. And if you've read the Jake Show, I feel strongly about not giving away spoilers. So I can do that. And also, thank you so much for reading and the kind words about the book. The Jake Show is a story about a Jewish kid with divorced parents. One side is Orthodox and quite religious. The other side is not. They all want different things from him. They love him, and it's important for me that the book is clear that all the parents really want what's best for their kid, but they want different things from him, and that tends to pull him in different directions and drown out what he may want for himself. When the book opens, Jake is starting a new school, meeting new friends that seem at least a bit to see Jake for Jake. He wants to join them at a summer camp that neither side of his parents would necessarily let him attend. So along with his new friends, he creates a mountain of lies to get there, and that goes well until it doesn't. And that's the Jake Show in a nutshell.
You summed it up perfectly. No spoilers at all, and I'm sure everybody now, right after they hop off of this interview, they're just gonna go straight to their library, local bookstore, Amazon, wherever books are sold, and find the Jake Show.
Yes,
So,
please.
yeah, but don't leave just yet, everybody, because we still got some more questions. So, one of the subplots and twists of the Jake Show that really stands out to me is when we find out that Jake's newfound friend, Caleb, had to come out as gay at an Orthodox school. I'm curious to know if, in your experience, you or someone else that you know has shared such a tough secret, one that could lead to dire consequences.
Sure. So I really appreciate you highlighting this aspect of the book, which means a lot to me. I personally exist within an Orthodox community, and while I love my community and I'm raising my kids in it. On this particular subject, we have a ways to go.
Mhm.
And, in terms of tough secrets like Caleb's, I know people who struggled with this exact thing within my community and struggles like the ones Caleb goes through or at least went through, in his story. They're real and they're happening right now in real communities out there. Sometimes it goes, better than Caleb. Sometimes it goes worse. And kids like Caleb deserve to see their stories on the page. Also, in addition to wanting to craft a book and a story that showed a community as diverse as my own, and it is diverse internally. I also think of both of those friends, and in both Caleb and the third friend, Tahila, as highlighting kind of another important theme of the book, which is that even though we're all main characters of our own stories, you never know when people around you are struggling with theirs, and it's hard to remember that sometimes. And Jake has to learn that lesson, and I hope kids reading the book can come away with understanding the importance of noticing the struggles of people around you.
Absolutely. And that is definitely a lesson that comes out when you read the book. And as an acting attorney, so now we're kind of diving into your story, do you feel your everyday work defending others and fighting for truth has helped you along your writing journey?
Well, I'll say first, I will say that I really appreciate how you describe being a lawyer. I will say that I definitely think of my job as trying to figure out and helping other people figure out what the right answer is. As for whether that's helped me in my writing journey, I would say absolutely. In part because for me, being a lawyer is being a writer, right? I do a ton of writing. I'm always telling stories, crafting language, figuring out who the audience is, figuring out how to convey an idea clearly, persuasively. So I feel lucky that I get to use these skills that I really love when I write books for kids and when I write briefs for a judge.
Yeah, and I love how you described it. I'm throwing it back at you, how being a lawyer is also telling a story, you're writing a story the entire time. And it's cool how you have two jobs and they both kind of meet and work together in a way to blossom into you as an amazing writer.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. I've met quite a number of other lawyer authors, and I do think there's like something about the skill set that leads people to explore, both of these kinds of things.
Yeah. And going back to the Jake show, Jake experiences a lot of changes in his life, and so it's no wonder he's had to find ways to cope. Coming up with the Jake show, it's just such a clever way to write about some pretty serious topics, but also weaving TV and lighter themes that kind of make it more middle grade, yet still add so much depth to the book. So, did you or someone you know live and maneuver through similar situations like Jake?
Absolutely. This is by far my most personal book. That Jake is a kid navigating divorced parents, one side Orthodox, the other side not, and that was me as a kid. Jake and I don't share personalities, and his obsession with TV goes further than mine. Although I do love it, but being pulled in those particular directions is something that I personally can relate to. I also think that finding a way to express who you are while different people around you are trying to express who they want you to be. That whole like soup is a very middle grade story. And
Yeah.
so, it was really a reflection of a lot of the stuff that I contended with as a kid. And I also thought that it could be a really useful sort of structure for a middle grade story.
Yeah, and it definitely was. It's such a great structure because there's it's kind of like a window and mirror book. We all have a window to see into the life of Jake, and readers who haven't gone through as the same experiences can learn about his, but it's also a mirror. I think all of us can relate to the fact that Jake has to kind of weave his way through obstacles of all sorts, just like we have to as middle graders and in middle school. So, in doing some research for our talk, I happened to discover that you were a middle school teacher at one point in your past.
I taught seventh and eighth grade for a few years before I went to law school. There was a time when I wasn't sure if I wanted to go the distance and be a teacher or switch to be a lawyer. I always thought that both of those things are things I might want to do. I really enjoyed being a teacher, but it was a really hard job. And I'll be honest, I had a harder time being a teacher than I do as a lawyer, which I think, in the end is kind of an easier job in a way. In terms of influence on my writing, for sure. Getting the voice of characters is really important to me. Maybe it's like the most important thing to me. And whenever I try and put together conversations between kids, I always am thinking about, okay, like, is this really, really how they would sound? And part of how I think about that question is by remembering what my own classroom felt like. And I really use that often to go back to when I think about how, kids interact with each other and speak together.
Yeah, and it must definitely be a super tricky job because as just a seventh grader, I feel like it would be the hardest job to teach me and teach kids like me who we have so much going on that kind of takes up space in our heads. It can be sometimes hard to get like us to settle down and stuff. So
Yeah,
it's
listen, I'm sorry. I was going to say it's hard to be a seventh grader and it's
yeah.
hard to teach seventh graders, right? All that stuff is really tricky and challenging.
And maybe sometimes you can find that balance, like we kind of the understanding, like I'm having trouble, you're having trouble, let's do this together.
Yeah, in community with each other, for
Mhm.
sure.
So, shining a light on the different levels of Jewish practices there can be among Jewish households is a great way to inform non-Jewish and even Jewish readers about the diversity within the Jewish culture. Because there's Reformed Jewish, there's Orthodox, and it can sometimes be you're kind of in your own little world. And it might sometimes be a little bit, I guess, surprising to know that there are people who like, celebrate their Jewish culture in different ways than you. So, what was the inspiration behind Jake's parents, their different levels of observance? So, you mentioned that your book is a lot related to your life. Did you have that similar experience? And have you experienced two different views of Jewish traditions and lifestyles? And how did you pick when you were an adult? How did you pick one over the other?
These are some great questions. So yeah, to start, I definitely experienced not exactly what Jake experienced, but the ideas of what Jake experienced. My parents were divorced. One side was very religious, the other side wasn't, and I really did kind of navigate what that was like. I went to different schools that expressed Jewish practice. To the extent they expressed Jewish practice, it was different. You know, I have my own version of that today. I myself and my family, my wife and kids, we're not exactly like any of our families. And I think to a degree, we continue kind of find our own ways and evolve. And to be honest, I think there's a lot of beauty in that. It can get tricky, like with Jake's parents, when people think that the way that they are is the only way other people should be. But when we embrace the idea that our differences can be assets to us, or that despite our differences, we're all kind of swimming in the same direction, we have a lot in common, we can really build like wonderful, beautiful communities, and we're all the better for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love I love I love being Jewish. Not a surprise. I wrote a book like this, and I love the different ways that is expressed. And I don't think I would want there to be only one color of the way we all do things.
Yeah, there's so many colors to our Jewish rainbow that we are in. And it's so great that you took the Jake show and were able to shine a light on all the ways to Jew it, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, a fun little Jake show subplot is how much your protagonist Jake is obsessed with TV, both because it's kind of an escape for him, but also because it's incredibly entertaining. I mean, it's TV, everybody. So, are you a big fan of TV? And if so, what's your favorite show or movie from your middle grade school years and currently?
Well, so I do like watching TV. I love movies. Not nearly as much as Jake does. Jake like sees the world as if through his glasses. It's a TV show. Well, if he's wearing glasses, a TV show at all times, and that like aspect of the book was a way for me to hone Jake's voice and play with some of the book's themes. And also, to be honest, it was just a ton of fun. Some of my favorite scenes in the book are through like Jake's TV obsessed eyes. And I really wanted the book to to feel light in a way. I think it's a book that at its heart is dealing with some meaningful, significant themes. But try as I might, I can't write a totally serious story, and I don't really want to, right? I know that the books I loved reading as a kid were just like they were fun and they moved and they made me laugh, and that's the kind of thing I want to put out into the world. In terms of favorite show when I was a kid, um, I always loved like sci-fi fantasy stuff. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what I was most obsessed with when I was in middle school. But I will say right now, and this is like has a middle school vibe. I'm halfway through the new Percy Jackson series,
Oh, it's so
and
good.
it's so good. I really like well, I've always enjoyed those books. I'm not totally caught up. I haven't read any of the ones that he's like writing where he goes back to Percy,
Yeah.
but those books are great, and I think they're doing such a good job adapting it for TV, and I'm really excited about the show.
Yeah, me too. And all 8 episodes are just cinema and
Oh,
at its height. And also I love seeing the kind of they made it called a hero's journey. It's like the making of the show. That was also really interesting
cool.
as well. Like
I will check that out. I haven't seen it, and I like it happens. I've read the books, or I read the books a while back, and I've reread them,
mhm.
but I can identify at least some of the things that they're very consciously changing, and I
Yeah,
think they're doing a really good job of thinking carefully about like what works in the book might not necessarily work in the show, and I think they're killing it.
they are. And I gotta warn you, do not watch A Hero's Journey before finishing the show because there are some spoilers. So
I would never. Thank you for the warning.
yeah, it's just like a content warning to everybody. If you do not want spoilers, then do not watch A Hero's Journey beforehand because your entire show experience will be ruined.
Oh
Because
no.
it's amazing. The entire television series, it's just chef's
Uh,
kiss.
I hope they make many more seasons. I'll keep watching it.
Me too. And I don't know why Disney hasn't renewed it yet.
Do you
So,
hear that, Disney? You got two fans.
yeah. And so we talked a lot about the Jake Show as it did win the honor, but you are a part of and the main writer of two beautiful Jewish themed stories coming later in 2024. So the first one is On All Other Nights, an anthology edited by Chris Barron, author of The Magical and Perfect, and your new book, Finn and Ezra's Bar Mitzvah Time Loop. So can you tell us about each of these awesome stories?
Absolutely. First, the anthology, it's me and Chris coding with another. I just want to mention her, another fantastic writer and friend of ours. Her name's Naomi Milliner,
Oh,
and this is a project that we have been working on for years, and we're so excited that it's finally out this spring. Each story is contributed by a different Jewish American middle grade writer, and each story is inspired by a different step of the Passover Seder. And the stories are, I think they're different. They feel different. Every writer is like bringing something different to the table. We're so proud of the collection, and we're so excited for it to be out March 26th in time
woo.
for Passover this year. Yeah, really excited about that book. And then on May 14th, my next like standalone middle grade, it is called Finn and Ezra's Bar Mitzvah Time Loop, so you know exactly what it's about before you even crack open the first page. It's about two kids trapped reliving their bar mitzvah weekends over and over and over and over again. It's a bit like the Jake Show in that the two kids come from different Jewish communities, but this time the book is not about anyone being torn up about their identities. They're all very comfortable with who they are and where they fit in Jewishly. They just don't want to get to Monday, please. I think it's another like really fun book. And again, for me, at the heart of it is something important and serious I'm trying to say. It's a book that when I think about it, it's a book about family and friendship and like what time is really worth, but also it's a book that's wacky,
Yeah.
as these time loop stories tend to be. So I'm really proud of that one too, and looking forward to readers getting to engage with it. That's May 14th.
Yep. And I can totally relate to Finn and Ezra and their bar mitzvah woes. I just had mine January 6th, and
Ooh, Mazel
yeah,
Tov.
thank you. And I could not wait for Monday. Like in the moment, it was very cool, but then all the preparations and then the after party, it was just Oh,
There's,
oy
I
vey.
mean, there's,
That's what I said.
it really is like, it really is so much. I can still, every year, my like bar mitzvah parsha comes back around. And
Yeah.
every year, like, I feel like a little stressed out. And if like, it's literally never happened, but if I'm ever like in shul and synagogue on that weekend, like in my mind, I'm like, what if somebody's like, Josh, why don't you read it? And I'll be like, no, no, please no. Um, so yeah, there's a moment in Finn and Ezra's bar mitzvah time where one of them remarks, they're like, I can't believe like people make us do this for our birthdays. Like it's very stressful. But I'm really excited for the book. And again, congrats for your bar mitzvah.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for it as well. And I just wanted to tell everybody the full list of all the authors on All Other Nights. There's Chris
Ooh.
Barron, Ruth Bahar, Adam Gidwitz, Vera Hiranandani, Amy Ignatow, Sarah Caput, Joshua Levy, obviously, Mary Lowe, Naomi Milliner, Sophia Pasternak, R.M. Romero, AJ Sass, Laura Chauvin, Laurel Snyder. The font is so small on this computer.
Well, you read those names beautifully, and yeah, I mean, just hearing them out loud, it's such a fantastic list, and I'm so delighted that we were able to bring everybody together and put this book together.
I recognized all the names. You brought so many incredible Jewish authors, and I know all the stories are going to be perfect. And whenever
Thank you.
it's just Passover, and I'm going to be reading it. Hopefully, I'm going to just tell all my family on Passover, you've got to read all other nights.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to hear what you think. Yeah, thank you.
And now, my next question for you is about another book, more books that you have written, yet they're already out. They aren't yet to come out. They were your debuts. So you've written another awesome middle grade book series entitled Seventh Grade versus the Galaxy. That's the first book, and there are two follow-ups. So could you tell us a little bit about this series, your debut into the middle grade space?
Absolutely. So seventh grade versus the galaxy is about a bunch of kids in the future who attend the public school spaceship 118. It's a school in an old spaceship and it orbits one of Jupiter's moons. And it's a future where like kind of that's how kids go to school if they grow up on planets other than Earth. And the PSS 118 has teachers and homework and gym class and also robot lunch workers, and they play zero G dodgeball, and they have 3D printers that can like spit out like okay pizza. And on the last day of school, they all get mysteriously catapulted across the galaxy, and they have to find their way home. And the books are zany. And the last one came out this past August. So it's seventh grade versus the galaxy, eighth grade versus the machines. Not all the robots are nice. And the most recent one is last summer in outer space. And I'm excited about those books too. And I'm really proud of them.
I can only imagine the adventures that anybody would go on in space with seventh graders. Wow.
They are brave and strong and sometimes a little too easily distracted.
Yeah. So for my final question, I've taken my usual question and put a bit of a spin onto it. So I know that you're a big Star Wars fan. So if you could be, or if you could meet any Star Wars character, who would it be and why?
Okay. If I could, I'm going to take this question very seriously.
Okay.
Um, so if I could meet anyone, I think it's a little bit of a cheesy typical answer, but I have to say Yoda. I feel like I still have a lot to learn about patience and failure, and so I think he has a lot to offer me. As for who I'd want to be, I probably should give like a standard answer like a Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I'm gonna go more obscure and say somebody like Jocasta Nu. And she don't have to know who she is, except she was the chief librarian at the Jedi Temple. And I think that's like more my speed. I think I'd make like a really good Jedi archival researcher with like tea and a lot of old books. So that really would work for me.
Yeah, I mean, all that lightsaber stuff, who needs it when you can have all the archives of everything that's happened in the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, I am not coordinated enough to be given a lightsaber. And I recognize that.
So I'm a Star Wars fan and a TV fan too. So Those are perfect answers. And I'm right there with you. I think I'd want to be a librarian as well, both in real life and in Star Wars. A bit less, battling and death-defying events.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Same.
So I hope you've all been inspired to find yourself a copy of The Jake Show or any of Josh's entertaining reads. It's been such a privilege to have you on, Josh. You were such a fun interviewee, and I hope that everyone is going to just dive straight into The Jake Show, and I know you're all gonna love it. Trust me, you will love it. You will love The Jake Show. It's the best.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the kind words and your time and the like very, very pointed questions is awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I know everyone watching has learned so much, not just about you, but also the beauty of the Jewish culture, our heritage, and I wish we had more time, but you're always welcome to come back again and chat. But until that
Thank
time
you.
comes, I hope everybody stays safe, keep on reading, and by reading, I obviously mean read the Jake Show. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you.